Hey, shalom, shalom. First thing and foremost, I want to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, Bashim Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. News in the gospel of God, lifting up the standard of Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, wherever it may be. Real quick, this is an article which says 80% of all U.S. dollars in existence have been printed by the Federal Reserve in just the last 2 years, which shows you that this dollar is currently going out of circulation. Okay. You see tensions amid Russia, Ukraine, China, America, NATO. NATO supposed to be deploying forces with some magnitude to the Ukraine to combat the situation out there, which led to America putting heavy sanctions on America. All right. Instead of you putting sanctions on this place, how about you go to war instead of bitching up? All right. Because we know that the West is pretty much scared to go to war with Russia and the other nations because they know that means they're in. You know, how America or Esau or the American devil boasts in his weaponry and his power. But yeah, you blatantly are being called out by opposing forces, and yet you fail to do anything about it. But yeah, you want to bully your own citizens and you want to bully these smaller nations by putting sanctions and invading them. All right. So the point of this is, do you believe the collapse of the dollar will lead into ultimate nuclear catastrophe? All right. And I believe through the spirit that will happen, because we know, according to World War II, you know, during the time of after the Great Depression, and to establish the U.S. currency as the centralized dollar, or the centralized currency of the world at that time, U.S. entered the war into the last half of World War II. All right. But if you look at the same nations, the European nations or the Eastern Bloc, etc., some of these same nations are at play that you're seeing that's happening today when it comes to these global markets and these certain banks and so forth. So through the spirit, man, this dollar collapse can very well lead into a world war, because we know preceding the dollar collapse, that you know what is supposed to be implemented, because that's going to be the currency. This is why everything is getting switched over to crypto, etc. But it says since March of 2020, Americans and the world alike have watched from the sidelines as power-hungry politicians have ushered in draconian lockdowns, shutdowns, police state measures, and brought the economy to its knees. Okay, while governments around the planet use their central banks to devalue their currencies by printing money to fund the tyranny, the U.S. led the way down this road to fiscal horror, okay, which is going to cause the other nations to go into world war. All right. It says, thanks to the trillions of dollars the Federal Reserve has printed over the last 2 years, America is currently at an inflation crisis. It says, only need to look at the prices of groceries over the last 2 years to realize just how bad of a crisis we are currently experiencing, right? Because now you got gas prices that's fluctuating between $3 and $2, $2.86 to $3.15. Certain states, $4, $5, possibly $6 a gallon, which is due to inflation, soon to be hyperinflation, which is going to cause the nations to chaos, to panic. All right. Panic buying in oil, all the commodities, hoarding food, rationing foods, sieging goods, which is going to lead it to all-out catastrophic war, man. Okay, because technically we're in World War III already, but it won't go global or nuclear until this happens, until the MOTB is the current infrastructure of the currency, which they're actually setting up. Because I was reading, I believe it was somewhere in Europe, if I'm not mistaken, to test out basically passing microchip laws into law, or they're going to try to test the theory sometime next month. So, we'll see. But it says here, as the Biden administration blames high prices on greedy industries, this is little more than a distraction from the actual perpetrator. But nevertheless, the left countries to attribute soaring costs on business making too much profit. It says, but while these corporations are not innocent in this debacle, the role of America's central banks is far more insidious, which the central banks are basically private-owned entities. All right, they're not actually conglomerates of the United States, but they're privately owned. Okay, and responsible for printing the dollar, like the Federal Reserve. That's a private-owned bank, You could say the Rothschilds own that. But it says, as government spending has skyrocketed over the last 2 years, they have financed their massive expenditures by stealing value from your savings by printing more money through the central bank, because the more money they print, the higher it goes up. But it says, but when you print money, it means that there are more dollars chasing the same amount of goods and services, which causes prices to rise. It says just in the past 3 fiscal years, federal spending has swollen by nearly $7 trillion a year, up from about $4.4 trillion in fiscal year 2019. It says the spending was $6.6 trillion in 2020 and $6.8 trillion in 2021. And think about it, when Trump signed that $1.3 trillion deficit spending to finance the military and the Space Force. I think it was divided by two 760 or $86 billion budgets to finance the military because they know they're going to war. All right. And this is done deliberately to collapse the dollar, to bring about a global war, because they believe somewhere in their proud and haughty spirit that World War III is going to pretty much put them at the top of the pinnacle. But that war is going to be the war to usher in Yahweh Shai, in the putting enslavement of you devils and the raising up of the elect. Okay. It says by November last year, that number climbed up to $20.354 trillion in circulation, meaning that since January 2020, the United States has nearly printed 80% of all U.S. dollars in existence. Damn. It says this is according to the Board of Governor of Federal Reserve Systems, not the same conspiracy theater, but either where it goes down here. This is the chart. Wow. And look, it go from all the way from 2000 all the way to 2021, and you can see the spending charts. Okay, so they going to war. They ain't got a choice but to go to war. All right, that's just what it is. But it says here, not coincidentally, the Consumer Price Index, which tracks the cost of every item, has seen a similar increase. It said it shot up a whooping 6.8% over the past year, the biggest increase in almost 40 years. Gas is up 51%, beef is up 20%, furniture up by 11%, and shit is going to continue to go up. All right. And since 1913, all of this taxation, inflation, and fiscal irresponsibility has been facilitated largely by the group responsible for printing America's currency, the infamous privately owned Federal Reserve Bank, which this is the Rothschilds doing. All right. All this money that they're stealing from the people, they're collecting taxes, all this going in the pocket of the elite bankers. OK, that's why we say the 1%, they own pretty much 99% of the world's wealth. You know, like when this whole thing started, I believe 10 of the world richest billionaires, they cashed out over $1 trillion. That of Jeff Bezos and this guy, Elon Musk. And they're just to name a few. You know, they have profited greatly off people's miseries. All right. It says, unfortunately, we are entering the uncharted waters in regard to money printing. Even the mainstream media is being forced to report on it now. But instead of proposing solutions to the policies which Trump and Biden have championed to get us into this debacle, the Biden administration is doubling down by throwing another $2 trillion at the problem through the Build Back Better plan, because basically they don't have the money. All right. It says the Biden administration and Democrat-controlled Congress are causing America to slowly but certainly commit economic suicide, because this is all a plan to bring in a you know what. It says the only hope the United States has to reverse this course of widespread foreign backlash against the irresponsible policies that created the present crisis in the first place. But a good place to start would be a total rejection of the Build Back Better now under consideration by Congress. But they're not going to build back better, okay? This is ultimately Bible prophecy that America is going to be destroyed, man, okay, in the coming world war. You see? Because look, it says, unfortunately, that didn't happen when the U.S. is setting itself up for a similar a situation similar to Germany's Weimar Republic. They were basically burning barrels of money, okay, because their money became so devalued to the point that they couldn't use it to spend on anything. And this is why we tell brothers to collect silver, you know, gold, certain assets, man, precious metals, because it's going to be pretty much of good use in the times to come, though it's not going to save you. But it says, but during that time, the Weimar Republic printed so much money that the price of bread rose from 250 to 200 million marks almost overnight. It says the mark was so worthless that people literally brought wheelbarrows full of money with them and wanted to buy things like groceries. But mass suffering and hunger were widespread, and it was all thanks to the terrible monetary policy. It says, will this happen in America? It says we can't say for certain, but it will. But if we look at the chart below from 1922, we can see a pattern which is repeating here, okay, which pretty much World War II. All right. So anyway, this shit is done. So this is the book of Jeremiah 50, and I'm going to start at verses. Let's start at verses 45. It says, my people, go ye out of the midst and deliver ye every man his soul from the fears of the Lord. And how are we going to do that? By calling on the name Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. It says, unless your heart faint and ye fear for the rumor that should be heard in the land, and a rumor should come both 1 year, and after that in another year should come a rumor. and violence in the land against ruler, okay? Because people say, y'all say that's going to happen. They've been saying World War III since the beginning of time. Well, true, World War III has been prophesied since the beginning of time, but we're actually in a time now, okay? Because a rumor is just like a hearsay, so to speak. You hear these things, but it's often questioned if it's true. But now we're seeing the evidence that World War III is happening, okay? All in the news, okay? You got Afghanistan, you got North Korea, you got America, you got NATO, all right? You got the Russian forces, you got Syria, all right? You got Iran, you got Israel. All these nations are talking about war. And at the time of an economic depression, put 2 and 2 together. That's what it says, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler, meaning country or kingdom against kingdom. You know, and it says, therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon, and our whole land should be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her, man. All right, because money is a big item in America. That's the whole thing you hear people saying, get the bag, get the bag, get the bag. I got to get the bag, you know. But ultimately, man, that's an idol because you people worship that stuff, man. Okay, so when the currency is devalued, then you can expect World War III to pop off, which is going to be the end of the westernized empire and the ushering of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, turning to set up the kingdom on earth, man. All right, so this is the book of Matthew 24, and I'm going to start at verses 6. It says, and ye shall hear of wars and rumor of wars, but see that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet, right? So these things got to happen. We have to hear wars, contentions, strife and contentions, false prophets, man. You know what I'm saying? The church is going back and forth. The MOTB, race wars, pandemics, you know, pestilence, famines. It says, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there should be famines and pestilence and earths in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. So we're in the beginning of these sorrows, but they're going to continue to intensify, because if you read the book of 2nd Esdras, the 16th chapter, it compares it to labor pains, man. Okay, and what happens when a woman is getting ready to go into birth or into labor? The contractions come closer and closer until the baby is birthed. Okay, one last precept here. This is the book of Zephaniah 1, and I'm going to start at verses 10. It says, and it shall come to pass in that day, says the Lord, that there should be a noise of a cry from the fish gate, and a howling from the second, and a great crashing from the hills. This is going into your economic destruction, okay? Your stock market crashes. Like right now, man, America is well over $400 trillion in debt off paper. But it says, how ye inhabitants of Mektesh, which is basically your equivalent Wall Street, for all the merchant people are cut down, and all they bear silver are cut off. And it should come to pass at that time that I will search Jerusalem with candles, and punish the men that are settled on their lees, that say in their hearts, the Lord will not do good, neither will he do evil. And these you bums out there that don't go into the prophecies, man. You know, you choose to stick on teaching certain false doctrines because, hey, you want to start up strife and contention. You don't want the end. You don't want Babylon the Great to be destroyed. All right. And it says, and therefore their good should become a booty, and their houses a desolation. And they shall also build houses, but not inhabit them. And they shall plant vineyards, but not drink the wine thereof. And the great day of the Lord is near. It is near, and it hastens greatly. Even the voice of the day of the Lord, which we're the voice of the Lord, because, hey, we're speaking on it. And the mighty man should cry there bitterly. And that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and desolation and distress, a day of wasteness and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, right? Because when the smoke hits, and when the missiles hit, and the chariot blocks out the sun in the heavens, it's going to be a dark day, because it's going to be straight chaos and contention. Metaphorically speaking, the mindset of the people is going to be that of gloominess. Okay. And it says here, in the day of the trumpet, an alarm against the fenced cities and against the high towers. And I will bring distress upon men, and they shall walk like blind men, because they have sinned against the Lord, and their blood shall be poured out as dust, and their flesh as dung. Neither shall their silver nor gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath, but the whole land should be devoured by the fire of his jealousy. For he should make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell on the land. And that's by thermonuclear destruction. So anyway, I'm going to end it there, giving all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. And with that, Shalom, wa ba ba ba.